Okay, so today we're going to be talking about building your dream product. Well, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about. And I think I've got a structure here. So the structure is that I'll begin with an introduction, then we'll go into gratitude, and then we'll do the quote of the day. And then I've written down some questions that we can explore. So let's always start with an introduction. Why do I start with an introduction? I start with an introduction because it's very likely that if you're seeing this, it's going to be the first time that you're seeing this. So, my name is Nathan Thomas. I have dyspraxia. I've been diagnosed on 2 separate occasions, and there is a strong suspicion of ASD, and I have OCD. I work, but I also have a social enterprise called Neurodivergent. And in short, that social enterprise is to provide social value, because that's what, or social benefit, because that's what social enterprises do. But specifically, it's geared towards empowering neurodivergent individuals, neurodivergent artists, and the neurodivergent communities. And with regards to what we do a variety of things, provide them facilitation on things like gaining access to work, understanding neurodivergence. So there's a facilitation aspect. There's also what I call the neurodivergent friendly exhibitions. And these are exhibitions, I'm going to just simplify this. These are exhibitions where neurodivergent artists are given a platform and they are paid for their work. And additional to that, we try to introduce reasonable adjustments, and because we're mindful that some people may not be able to attend, we'll create a virtual reality component, which means that you can experience the exhibition even if you're not there. And we're also looking to go into some other things, like the product that I'll be creating next year, which will be a neurodivergent friendly book, and that will illustrate the lives of a variety of neurodivergent people. So that's the introduction. Gratitude. So with regards to gratitude, I am grateful for the relationship that I have with my mother. She's been so supportive. She always sends me text messages, and her love has just been overwhelming, really, and I'm very grateful. So that's today's gratitude. So before we go into the quote of the day, I want to actually talk about something. So today I went to have an eye appointment. Now typically I don't wear glasses, but I've been having issues with my eyes where I've been squinting. So that typically if there's a bit of sunshine, I'll be squinting a lot. And I've had some issues looking at computer screens. So I went for an eye test, begrudgingly. So I went for this eye test, and they did an eye test, which was very thorough, by the way. It was really, really thorough. I was really impressed with the machines that they used and the precision. And so I'm deflecting a little bit. But anyway, before they did the eye test, they actually did a little survey. And in the survey, they said, "What did you do?" And my answer was, and obviously I'm paraphrasing, I said, well, I'm a director for a social enterprise, but I also work for somewhere else as well. So then they just categorized my occupation as the other thing that I do. So I looked on the screen, I looked at the answer, and I thought, excuse me, don't want to be discourteous, but can you change that? Because you've put this, but I identify as a director of my company, which is a social enterprise, and which is actually turning over money and making a profit and providing social value and social benefit, which is what a social enterprise is supposed to do. So why is this important? Why am I going into this story? It's important because it talks about identity and who we are and what we identify with. And yes, I'm grateful for the job, and that's provided a lot of opportunities, but part of my purpose, a massive part of my purpose, is wrapped up into my social enterprise. So I think identity is important. Maybe you can look in the mirror, or the metaphorical mirror or whatever, and ask yourself, what is your identity? What do you do? And why do you do it? Questions are always important, because questions can reveal who we truly are, or alternatively, what we're trying to become. Okay, so that was the story. So what's the quote of the day? So the quote is from Vidal Sassoon, and it says, quote, "The only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary," end of quote. I really like that quote because it emphasizes the fact that hard work is essential for success. I see a lot of people just trying to take a shortcut to success, and there's this mantra of work smarter, not harder, when the reality is probably a combination of both. You work smarter and you work harder. But often when we're looking for that shortcut, we can become unstuck. And I guess in the business context, in a way you can use the metaphor as going to war. So when you're doing a business, you are going to war. And you're going to have to work hard. You're going to be on the battlefield every day. No shortcuts. And if there are shortcuts and there are systems in place, the premise or the phases before that is the hard work to create those shortcuts. I hope that makes sense. So I love that quote. So today we're going to be talking about building your dream product, and we're just kind of going off the head. You know, this is not definitive answers. This is more like exploring things. So when we talk about building your dream product, to me, and the reason why I want to talk about this is because I'm going to be creating my product, as I said before, the Neurodivergent Friendly Book. The title is still pending. That is not the title. I think when we say what is a good, when we talk about creating a dream product, maybe the question before that or the premise to that is, what is a good product, or what is an example of a good product? I was actually thinking about that. And as I look around my room, I see a few things. I see a Von Dutch hat. That's a good product. I see an iPad. That's a good product. And there's actually a set of dumbbells as well. So why are these good products? I guess with the dumbbells, or what makes it a good product? Well, when we talk about Von Dutch and the iPad, we definitely have branding there. So Von Dutch, you've got, I guess, the artistic style, and as an artist, I identify as an artist as well. The artistic style, to me, that is compelling. And also the Von Dutch, that represents a brand, that's a name. And in clothes, that's essential. And that can reflect in various ways. So it's not just the name, it can reflect in, the material. And also it can be a statement. It can actually be like a class statement as well, or a statement with regards to your self-worth, etc., etc. So when we look at the Von Dutch hat, style, branding, the material, and I think that probably categorizes why that is a good product. And obviously that is subjective, because some people may hate the style of Von Dutch hats, but it's a distinctive style. So it's kind of like either you love it or hate it, but it's a brand. iPad, again, is a few things there. So an iPad is a brand, a Mac is a brand. But then when I think of an iPad, I think of the interface, how great the interface is, how visually impressive it is. And when you think about this, why would a visual interface be impressive to me? Well, as someone who's neurodivergent, as a neurodivergent learner, most neurodivergent learners are visual learners. So the visual interface of an iPad or a laptop would have particular importance to someone who is neurodivergent. So that's one of the things. But then you have the reliability, you have the sturdiness of the product, the efficiency of the product. So when you turn it on, it loads up quickly, it's reliable. And I guess reliability in the iPad context is multifarious. So you click on YouTube, it opens up, no issues. You click on pages, it opens up, no issues. So I guess there's a few layers there. So you have the brand, you trust the brand. You have the strength of the product, so it's physically sturdy, it lasts a long time. And then you have the fact that the product is effective in the sense that you turn it on, it turns on quickly, it runs smoothly, it has a nice visual interface, the apps load up. Even when you go on YouTube, it looks really slick and smooth. So yeah, so you got various things there, and then with the weights a little bit different. I don't, maybe some people would buy weights because of the brand, but then again the sturdiness of the product is important. So if you buy a pair of dumbbells and they last like 5 years, to me that would indicate that that's well built, and you might be compelled to buy them again. So to answer the question, what is a good product? So a good product could be multifarious things. It could be something that has a great brand. It could be something that is very well made. And it's something that delivers on its promise. So I've spoken about this before, but I wear a smartwatch, and the smartwatch records my steps and it delivers on that promise. So that's good. But then it has other additional features. It tells me about my heart rate, tells me about my health, tells me about my fitness. And it also has an app that gives me additional information. So here we have a product that is well made, that lives up to its expectation, but then it also excels its expectations. So maybe that's the three elements that's important to building a product. So when I think about the product that I'm going to build next year, I ask myself, okay, if I'm creating a neurodivergent friendly book, how would that be a great product? So from my perspective, to me, if I'm telling neurodivergent stories, those stories, they need to be compelling. If it's, well, first of all, if it's a physical, because it could be a digital product or a physical product. If it's a physical product, it needs to be sturdy. It needs to look visually impressive. So that's one thing. If it's a digital product, then that's a little bit different, but it still needs to look visually impressive, and it needs to meet the expectations of the consumer. So if you have, I said before that neurodivergent people are primarily visual learners. So if I want to engage neurodivergent people, I need to engage visual learners. So if I'm creating a book and I want it to engage the neurodivergent community, it needs to be visually impressive. So one of the things that we're doing, I'm going to create this book and it's going to have a massive visual element. So I was thinking each page will be supplemented, each story will be supplemented with pictures that will immerse you in this visual experience. So that's one way of creating a good product. The next way I was thinking of creating a good product, and this is in actually it's in the book, I think it's the Lean Startup, where it talks about creating a minimal viable product, I believe is the term, an MVP. And what you do, you create a mini version of the product, and then you get feedback from your potential customers. So let's put that in my context. So and in your potential context. So I'm going to create this book. So I'm going to create a minimal version element, for want of a better word, of this book. So say like a sample. I'm going to give this sample to neurotypical but mainly neurodivergent people, and I'm going to ask for feedback. And that feedback could be, what do you think is good? What do you think is bad? And how can it be improved? So let's say if I give that out to 100 people, and then I look at, in particular, what do I think is good? Okay, that's what we keep. What do I think is bad? Okay, we need to disregard those elements if that's the majority consensus. And then if everyone's saying you can improve it by doing X, Y, and Z, then we need to do X, Y, and Z. And this, I guess, can be translated to any product. So creating a character, if John's creating a product and he creates a sample edition of the product and he gives it out to the potential customers of the product, and then he goes, what do you think is good? What do you think is bad? And how can it be improved? He can get feedback that can create a better product. And in creating a better product, it's more likely that that potential customer will become an actual customer. And also, additionally to this, you've actually marketed it as well, because, and you've made the potential customer feel involved. So there's a value exchange. So for me, when I think about building a dream product, I think about engaging with that potential customer, engaging with their feedback, and allowing the feedback to create a better product. And that's essential. That's really essential. And I guess with my social enterprise Neuroexpression, we're in the process of building a brand. And there's different types of businesses. So there's B2C, which is, you're selling to customers or consumers. There's B2G, that means business to government. And then there's B2B, and you're selling to other businesses. So obviously when you're creating your product or your service, you need to ascertain where do you fit within that criteria. But I think when you're doing a B2C, it's important to get that customer feedback and to build that branding. Now, in my context, building my brand is a bit different, because a lot of my work at the moment, the money has been generated through grants. So building a brand, in my context, the context of Neuroexpression, is taking the grant, over-delivering on the grant, and therefore, because I've over-delivered on the grant, the people that have funded me before have confidence to fund me again. And therefore that builds the brand, that builds the reliability, that builds the trust. And I guess all relationships, personal or professional, are based on trust. Like today I went for the eye test, and I've got trust that the professional who's conducting an assessment on my eyes is going to do a good job. Not only have I got trust that they're going to do a good job, I've got trust that they have expertise and knowledge in what they're doing. Similarly, when we go to the doctor, generally speaking, we have trust that they've had lots of training, they know what they're doing, they have an extensive amount of knowledge, and they're going to use this knowledge to identify a problem or identify the problems, and then identify the potential solutions. And obviously I don't know if subjective is the right word, but there's good doctors, there's bad doctors, etc. But generally speaking in life, we do look to develop trust. And these can be in friendships and in personal friendships and in business, professional relationships. So I guess building the dream product is a combination of things. But it's definitely something, when I think of building a dream product, to me, it's a journey. It's a process. It takes time to understand what your customer wants. And it's about valuing the customer. And I guess it's identifying the customer, valuing the customer, and the way you value the customer is to get them involved in the process. And to get them involved in the process is to get them to give the feedback through giving them the sample. So that's how I would try and build a dream product. And I'm hoping that I'm going to build a great product for next year. Matter of fact, speaking of that product is actually, the actual product is something that I'm going to be funding, but I have been given a grant, not for the actual book, not for the product, but I've been given a grant to engage the neurodivergent community. So we're going to be doing that in a variety of ways. We're going to be doing that through an exhibition. So there'll be an exhibition to promote neurodivergence and neurodiversity. And, we're still thinking about, creating perhaps a digital community. There's various ways you can create a digital community, a digital neurodivergent community. You could, typically you could do it through WhatsApp, or you could do it through Facebook, or you can do it through Reddit. And we definitely will engage with the community, and we'll get feedback from the community. And it's funny because I did a presentation, and I spoke about this in the last video. I did a presentation on access to work. It was disabled entrepreneurs and access to work. And there was people that were primarily neurodivergent. And, they provided some really positive feedback. It was a really positive experience. And it wasn't just a positive experience for them, it was a really positive experience for me, because yes, I took time in crafting that presentation together, but it was actually great to have that interaction, to listen and to understand what are the questions that people have, you know, as opposed to just reading off a slide. It's about understanding what do people really need. And in that premise, it was about, you know, disabled / neurodivergent entrepreneurs trying to set up their own businesses. And there's, I mean, the context of that is multifarious, because some people might be like, right, I'm just going to go full-time into my own business, which is very, very hard. Or they may have a part-time job, or they may have a full-time job, and they're trying to do something additional. So I guess the exchange of value in that interaction was giving the information of how to get access to a grant called Access to Work, which could fund their entrepreneurial ambitions. Okay, so how am I going to end this? So we've spoken a bit about business, spoken a bit about building a dream product. I guess the way I'll end this is to talk about, and a lot, these videos are kind of like for me really, because it gives me a chance to reflect and understand. I guess for me, what's on my mind at the moment is to understand, why am I doing this? Because building a social enterprise, yes, building a CIC, a community interest company, which is a social enterprise, part of it is about making money, because we need money to be able to fund the exhibitions. We need money to be able to, you know, pay for workers and pay for artists. But the main point, and I've said this before, and I think it's always important to reiterate, it's all about providing social value. But we can go a step further, because it's not just about me defining what that social value is. It's about the neurodivergent community also defining what that social value is. From my perspective, I guess providing that social value is supporting and helping neurodivergent individuals, neurodivergent artists, and the neurodivergent society. And also, I guess with the facilitation, it's about empowering and providing education to organizations that may be run by neurotypical people. I don't want to get it twisted, because I've said this before. Neurodivergent people are at every layer of organizations. There are neurodivergent CEOs. There are neurodivergent people that work on the front line. There are neurodivergent assistant managers, neurodivergent regional managers, neurodivergent cleaners. Neurodivergent people can be found at every level, every single level. But when I'm delivering presentations, I think this is a good time for me to provide awareness to neurodivergent people and to neurodiverse people. And one of the big aims was to create what I called a neurodivergent friendly world. So, with that being said, I sincerely hope this video has provided value.